This is going to be a new series that we are doing specifically on the topic of design with myself, Sherif. We got Thomas over here, and we got Joe over there. And we wanted to use this platform to talk about a number of different subjects in design that we feel are particularly important. And one of the ones that is important to all of us is the subject of brand. So we decided to tackle a particular brand that makes us all feel a certain kind of way, man.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot of audience will agree with this.
I just can't stop laughing.
And so for those of us, who are tuning in, who are former Art Center classmates, we all have an opinion on Honda. So let's dive in here. Joe, you wanted to talk about one of the specific products that Honda has been making lately. Tell us what your thoughts are.
The famous
You mean infamous?
Honda Civic. Yeah, the infamous
Yeah.
Honda Civic that everybody love from generation to generation. I seen the old generation Honda Civic. It's so exciting, but man, what's wrong with the new generation Honda Civic?
Man,
It's especially like the whole proportion is just. I mean, I'm just gonna start out with the whole proportion because I can't see any good things on Honda Civic right now. At least on my opinions, because the whole proportion just doesn't feel Honda Civic-ish. Civic-ish. It's too bulky. It's too family-oriented, and it's too it doesn't feel fast. Right. And Honda Civic. The original Honda Civic, it needs to feel agile. It needs to feel
young,
energetic. But no, I didn't see any on that. Nowadays,
it's kind of their BMW 3 Series of like the affordable line of Honda.
And then you remind us another ugliest car.
Right now, hey, we're not gonna get.
But you just say it.
No, but see, what I'm trying to draw a parallel for is that within Honda's brand, right, the Civic is the water bearer for the brand, right? Like the Civic is equivalent to, say, like a BMW 3 Series or C-Class. The Accord is like the 5 Series. It's their mid-range sedan, so it holds like the brand up in a sense, and for them, as Joe was pointing out, to start kind of distorting the proportion of this thing is kind of a weird move.
And and it's like the car is getting bigger and bigger, because I remember Civic back in the day is much smaller. It compete with Mazda 3, compete with Toyota Corolla, but now the Civic is like a core, and the core is like a 5 Series, like you say, and it's like the balloon is just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
that.
I think for me the problem is that excitement is gone. Like Civic, was before. It was very. For younger people, even the pricing range was pretty low. My first car was Civic, actually. And
it was going to be my first car as well.
Yeah, it was gonna be my first car as well.
Yeah,
we have that option.
Yeah, it's for those teenagers who just got their license, and they know they want some fun, but they cannot afford any real sports car yet. But Civic actually was very famous for, if you do a little bit of tuning, you can actually outrun those sports cars too, because the car is so light, and that was the whole fun of it. I remember the stock suspension was even very stiff already. I had Civic EX, there was sedan, and there was silver color. I think it was like early 2001. That model, and it was pretty fun. I wrecked my transmission but definitely it was the one for young people.
Yeah.
And now that I look
Yeah.
at this Civic, I don't understand first of all that the whole like fastback,
Yeah.
that
That is
proportion.
something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, if you want to make a hatchback, just make a hatchback like Civic Si. Forgot the model name. There was one generation that they actually made a hatchback version of it. But it was
Yeah.
2-door, right? It was very sporty. I know it was like
Yeah.
sort of like a cheaper version of Golf GTI. Right now I'm looking at like what Joe said. It's an Accord, freaking Accord with like a hatchback. Like a
I would go
sportback.
so far as saying they actually completely took the styling cues from a crossover.
Right.
It has that. It's no longer. It goes from A pillar, B pillar, and it used to dive down at the C pillar,
Right.
to kind of, even in the sedan form, kind of create a sedan. What is that? I'm forgetting my transportation design words, but the 2-box or 3-box style, right?
Yeah.
But now that C pillar is just structure, and it's become a D pillar that completely dives towards the rear of the car, kind of like a crossover.
Right.
And it's a weird amalgamation of design elements that don't seem to fit together.
Right.
They're trying to use their marketing to convey that it's sporty with pictures of it on like Nardo or coming around a mountain road. And there is no part of this aesthetically or design wise that even says that.
Right.
I'll even go so far as to point out that if you look at the shoulder line that comes from the taillight all the way to the front of the car, is nearly horizontal, actually.
Right.
If you look
Right.
at sporty cars, that usually is kicked at an angle and dives through the front wheel arch,
Right.
as a design element.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it looks like it makes me feels like I'm driving a refrigerator on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's just poorly. I have to say, okay, we all know that the design decisions to come up with a package, deal with the sort of core elements of this, are not up to the designers within
Right.
the studios.
Yep.
They are tasked with the role of just realizing what the upper management decide.
Right.
Right.
But the upper management has lost the plot, man. You look at what Joe was talking about, what Thomas was talking about, of the like the EK9 Civics,
Right.
the 90s Honda,
Yep.
to where they are now. It's not the same company, man.
Right.
And in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Not the best way possible.
Yeah, I remember, Honda, back in 90s were, they had really strong theme. They're almost like the, like very well organized, like, minimalistic sort of design, like they took out all the unnecessary stuff. And that's what the beauty of like Honda was, because, it just doesn't, show off, but it's just very like clean and just,
Right.
Very straightforward. And
Yep.
now that I
Yes.
look at Civic, and even worse for Civic Si, when I saw that fake vent from the side, I'm like, why? Like Civic is meant to be the most simplest, most enthusiast, most youngest, model within Honda lineup, and it shouldn't have anything extra like, oh, I have this color, or something. It's just.
Right.
Yeah, it's simply the white T-shirt. That's what I always look at. Like when I look at Civic, is white T-shirt.
Yeah.
And then it just serves its purpose. If you want to just make it daily, you can go daily. But if you want to make it a little bit more sporty, you always have a room for potential. That was my definition of Civic.
Yeah.
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 And I don't know
And
now,
they've
like looking at all this
definitely lost
extra stuff. Yeah.
They definitely have. I think what we're all trying to say in a way is the Civic is endemic of a very confused brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Civic, it's if you didn't tell me it's a Civic, I wouldn't know it's a Civic. And if you hide the badge of Honda, I would know it's a Honda. That's basically sums up like what this looks like because
that goes with
I feel like
other Honda cars too actually.
Yeah. And like the company doesn't have identities anymore. Which what we meant is that they used to create the coolest car, the Japanese coolest JDM car, and now it's like it just feels like another European companies that are trying to copy European cars, and
but it's like a cheap knockoff of a European car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I always feel like Honda is like a small gadget, like that was my definition of Honda, and Honda always was very thoughtful. I also had Honda Odyssey 2002 year, which we're gonna talk about later, but like that car actually had a really good design, really good thought process, like got a lot of like spots like cup holders, and Honda always had that little things here and there that actually they were thinking of, like door handles or whatever. And then exterior was very simple. That's what I loved about Honda, very simple. Like they didn't speak out loud. They were just always kind of like, I'm doing my job,
just
and
right there, there at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. And now they're trying to be someone. It's kind of like teenager who has an identity crisis and doesn't know who he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's like
it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, he's like trying to fit into like this group of like kids, like punk looking, and a group of skaters, and he's just like going around like, oh, can I be your best friend? So like for a couple semester, like this guy's wearing like all this punky shirt and like vest with like a punky hair, and then next semester you're hanging out with all these hip hop dudes with like baggy shirts and baggy pants. That's how I feel like Honda right now. He lost the identity.
Yeah, what also reinforces that for me is the Honda Ridgeline. In all honesty.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh my.
Let's talk about that.
Oh my. Oh my.
And what I hope our viewers will see here is that we're not trying to explicitly bag on Honda. We're trying to do an overall design analysis through looking at multiple of their vehicles to identify, again, an endemic problem with their brand identity. It just does not seem to be cohesive to or in line with their historical brand qualities at all. And the Ridgeline is a perfect example of that for me on two levels. First, I was just in Santa Cruz over this weekend. It was Father's Day. My dad loves being, at the ocean. So I took him over to Santa Cruz. And I got to see one of the new Ridgelines up close and personal. And if it didn't have the Honda badge on it, you could have told me it was a Ford or and not just a Ford or like a Chevy or GMC, but an old Ford. An old Chevy or an old GMC. And this is the other point where I think Honda really lost the plot was they wanted to bring a unibody truck to the market, but they didn't. They idealized what the end user would use it for, and they built something that is too large and is trying to compete already with body-on-frame trucks.
Right.
Which it just doesn't make sense.
Which it would never win, because if you want to get a truck, you will get a body-on-frame truck.
Right.
Like Tacoma.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
And Ford F-150 or, what's out there?
Yeah.
There's a bunch
Even
out
the
there, but just not Ridgeline. And especially
Right,
if
yeah.
you make a Ridgeline unibody, then that's even worse.
Right.
Now, see, who did it really well recently was Hyundai. Hyundai did the Santa Cruz, which these guys know I've been talking about like nonstop lately because I think it's a really well executed concept.
Yeah.
It's essentially a small SUV with a 4-foot bed behind it, so it's not trying to compete or say it's a big truck. And it has a good towing capacity, but it's unibody. It's a good mishmash of concepts. And Honda tried to do what the Santa Cruz does with the first generation. They had unique styling.
They actually did it first.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all they had to do was take almost the original styling and kind of shrink it down just a little bit,
Right.
and they would have been okay.
Right. Yeah.
But then they threw the whole thing out the window and basically made an old truck,
Right.
in a worse like method of construction.
Which I think it was Honda's bad decision by listening to the public
customer.
saying that, because there were a lot of like saying negative thing about the Honda Ridgeline first generation because they are all used to, like just regular pickup truck styling. And I think they should have just kept going with whatever they were doing, just try to make it better, But they were so
Styling
scared.
wasn't the problem.
They were so scared. They were like, "Oh no! Like everybody loves pickup. Okay, let's just make it a pickup looking again." Which I don't think it makes sense because it's kind of like, I mean, I'm not racist and I'm not like trying to divide like racial like skepticism, but like it's kind of like an Asian dude trying to be like white. This.
In a weird way,
yeah.
I
In a
get
weird
where
way,
you're coming from.
Like
Yeah,
he's like literally, he's not proud of his culture. He's not proud of where he's coming from. He's just like, oh, okay, I'll follow these rednecks. Like I'll just, do whatever they're doing. When you don't have that heritage.
Exactly. And in this case, the heritage is body-on-frame construction.
Exactly.
That's the truck. That's if you want to make a truck, you need a body-on-frame construction.
Yeah.
And
Right.
this is unibody, then this is an SUV. It's not even. I mean, it's a
It's
small
a
SUV.
lifestyle.
It's not even a big SUV.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle vehicle, right?
Right.
So if like, and that's, I remember seeing the brief on the original Honda Ridgeline. They were like, oh yeah, it's going to be this dude who goes surfing and he wants to put his surfboards in the
Perfect
back of
imagination
the bed.
of all the designers' image.
Right.
Which, by the way, I've had a problem with this, like, fake consumer typing,
Fake,
in transportation design from like day one.
Fake consumer archetype.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't just make up a consumer archetype and say that this is your consumer. You have to do the research and show that there's like a significant consumer base that aligns with this concept. Like, you can't just pull it out of thin air. And that's what happened. Right? So, like, they started with something with funky styling to say it was a lifestyle vehicle, but then they sized it to the same size of a body-on-frame vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, they got rid of the funky styling, made it look more like body-on-frame without the construction. So they got rid of the wrong parts. They should have kept the funky styling, but shrunk it down.
Yeah.
And
you could have been
like, it's just,
I think it could have been a good Santa Cruz competitor if they did it right.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Like,
Yes.
the whole truck. Should I call it a truck or SUV or a car? Like,
It's a lifestyle vehicle. That's really what it's
it's
supposed
losing
to be.
its identity, and
Yeah.
like
That's the
if
thing, the reason why you
Yeah.
don't know what you're gonna call it is because
Yeah.
there's no identity anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly what it is, actually.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, it's really hard justify. It's really hard for me to say what it is because it's all over the place basically. It's got SUV styling, it's got truck styling, and it's got SUV construction, but at the same time wants to be a truck.
It's another. It's another teenager, man. I think it's the same thing. You know?
I think it's another dimension that we cannot understand.
Yeah. No, and the thing of it is, the marketing doesn't help with it, right?
Yeah. No.
Because they're showing it loaded up with dirt bikes. They have it driving around in a quarry, kicking up dirt. These are typical images that are associated with trucks like the Tacoma, like the F-150, like the Dodge Ram, you know, and things like that.
Right.
And this does not have the capability of any of those.
No.
In the grand scheme of things.
Not.
If you look at Santa...
And those buyers would not go for this.
They would not pick this. Yeah, they would not pick this.
No, if you look at Santa Cruz, like their photo shoots, they know exactly what they're doing. You know, they have a photo of like cruising on a beach with like some surfboard. They're not doing anything like hardcore, but then they're just doing their, you know, they're serving their purpose, which is, you know, carrying around some big leisure stuff so that the person can actually go out on a picnic, you know, maybe like a little camp trip, you know, but not like crazy off-roading. But like when I see the Reachline, you know, photo shoots, it looks like it's doing like some heavy duty stuff, which in reality
but
doesn't.
It will never do.
No,
it will never ever do.
And part of what I think is lost here is, again, considerations that demonstrate smart thinking. When you look at the Santa Cruz, they have all of these like corner cameras, like 360 views. So if you want to tow something, it just is such a much more complete, well thought out lifestyle vehicle package that I even thought about it. You know, you guys know, like I just picked up an old Impreza. So I said, man, if I ever need to get a vehicle to like tow that thing, but I hate driving body-on-frame vehicles, personally. I just don't like the way they feel.
Yeah.
I would get a Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'll wait a few years until the used ones are cheap, and I'll pick one up, man.
Right.
Like, it'll be perfect to go camping in and to tow the Impreza if I need to go to, like, a racetrack or something.
Yeah.
I have got the truck bed. I can throw in some tires, some spare parts. Like... It does the basics really well. I don't need a full on truck, and that's where Honda again lost the plot. Like they should have catered to me and my future needs, not a farmer,
right?
And an off-roader.
I mean, you know, on a flip side, if they really want to reach out to these real truckers, they should have just go with body on frame. I don't know if they have a technology for it or not. But, you know, they should have taken that Tacoma sort of, you know, like a Toyota pickup way, you know?
Like, to be honest, this truck, this car, it's... they are trying to compete with Tacoma. It looks like they're trying to compete with Tacoma. They're trying to compete with Nissan Ranger.
No idea how much Tacoma fans love Tacoma.
Tacoma or Ranger, even Ranger, Nissan Ranger is a body-on-frame truck.
Yeah.
So
that's why Hyundai did a really good move when they were trying to merging into this truck industry. They see the truckers, they love their truck. You know, they know they're not gonna move, you know, just by, you know, like some company just doesn't have a heritage of like, you know, doing off-roading stuff, you know. So Hyundai definitely, you know, look for a new buyers who are in need of like something that the truck could do, but like doesn't have to be like body and frame, you know, truck basically.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Honda just, I think, you know, trying to compete with, you know, like a truck sellers with no truck capability basically.
Yeah. And I think you said it best, Thomas. It's like a teenager trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You know?
Like even like okay, for the viewers out there, I might not know my truck stuff, but I don't know if Nissan Ranger is a body on frame truck or not. But if you look at Nissan Ranger, it actually feels like a truck, a proper truck that can do heavy duty stuff.
Yeah.
But then if you look at Honda Ridgeline, the car, I'm just gonna call it a car from now on. It just doesn't. It just feels like a small SUV, and then got the trunk chop
Yeah.
off.
a big bed.
Yeah, basically.
And too big of a bed at that, to be honest.
And the proportion just all over the place.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry for Honda, but that's yeah.
No, speaking of Honda, kind of taking even their good concepts and pushing them into a very confused space. Thomas, you had one that you wanted to point out to us.
Yeah, I think as a owner of this car before, well, I didn't own this car, but it was my mom's car, but I drove it around. I used to love this car, but now I see this newer generation of this car. I hate it. It's Honda Odyssey.
My eyes!
It's like all the stuff that we talked about, Civic and Ridgeline together, combine all this together, and then it's a Honda Odyssey right there. Because I used to love Honda Odyssey 2000. We had a 2002 Honda Odyssey, and that one was really great. It's very spacious inside. It's very convenient. The one thing I love about Honda, like I said before, is they don't put any unnecessary stuff. They just put enough of what you need so that we can use conveniently, but there's nothing more than enough so that you're not like paying for extras that you're not even gonna use later. That was the beauty of Honda. Now I look at Honda Odyssey right now. First of all, aesthetically, it's a chaos.
Dude, I can talk aesthetically for an hour on this car.
Yeah. Funny enough, I saw the sketch of this car when it was sketched. I think it was one by Art Center, the designer from Art Center. It's not bad actually, but we all know like when you put all this into package with like engineers and stuff, there needs to be more of a refinement. So I don't blame on people who come up with the concept, but I feel like their lack of like refinement, and also they need to understand, certain things need to be taken out, as you go towards the end of the process of design, because you realize that some of the stuff won't be harmonious as you expected. From like 2D to 3D is always different.
Yep.
But then it looks like Honda just like kind of shoved everything in, whatever they see from the sketch to 3D.
Yes.
And they're like, like just make it work, like and then boom, like abomination.
I'm pretty sure that's the decisions from the top, not the designers itself.
100%.
Because
100%.
as a designer ourselves, we would never design something like this.
Right.
It's just impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, let me just point out one thing. What's up with C pillar or D pillar? You say,
Oh my God.
that thing floating.
yeah.
It's a freaking minivan. It's not like a European sports car or something. That's something that like I don't know, Peugeot or Citroën used to do. They don't even do that anymore. And like it's just floating, and it just makes the car look very weak.
It feels weak, but at the same time heavy in the rear.
Right.
It actually makes
like a brick.
The mass. Yeah, it makes the mass behind the rear wheels feel so low.
Yeah.
And that's also aided by that little kink in the rear, the back passenger doors, that it just, I don't know, man. It just feels like the mass is too low. The rear is dragging on the ground. The disconnection from the D pillar even makes that worse.
And character line is just like flying down as it reaches towards the end.
I just can't stand one of the side on the side. There's a like a floating line on the top of the side.
Yeah.
They trying to connect that to the back, and then the rear just kind of look like this, like arrow shape, the whole rear, and it looks weird. It looks like, okay, you want to make this car look fast, but hey, it's a van and it's for family use, and it's not like you are driving a sports car.
Yeah.
It's
There's
all over
a
the place.
weird thing with Honda that they try to integrate some of their airplane manufacturing cues into the designs of the cars, right? I'll never forget, it wasn't the MDX, it was the Acura RDX or something, where they had these dash elements that were like stacked, and the whole idea was it was supposed to evoke this feeling of like an airplane wing on your dashboard, which is like you, Thomas, speaking about Honda never put unnecessary things. Like, why do I need an airplane wing on my dashboard?
Exactly.
And Joe, the parts that you were just talking about, these diving lines, and Thomas, you were talking about the D-pillar floating. The floating D-pillar looks like an airplane wing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's a minivan. Like,
I
why
know.
does it need airplane wings? And this, again, to our viewers, is why we're talking about Honda as a brand losing their way and confusing
Right.
their brand image.
all of us.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily
The
saying all these design elements are bad. You know, like if you're used properly in like a right product, you know, this could be executed really well. You know,
If
it's
you
just
if you
that-
separate it out, if you separate everything out,
right.
it will look good. But if you combine all of them together, it's disaster.
Like even like the airplane interior, if it was like, let's say I remember I think it was 70s and 60s or after war, every car was inspired by airplane, then it makes sense, because a lot of the cool guys were pilot back then, and like a lot of the cool cars, and it was selling.
Right.
But it's not even freaking sports car, it's freaking RDX. It's a compact SUV, right? Yeah.
And I wonder how many, Acura RDX owners and even Honda Odyssey owners even have an idea that Honda designs airplanes or has jet engines. Like, they're not buying the Odyssey based on the fact that Honda makes airplanes.
Right.
Again, it's the marketing, the research team, it's doing something wrong. Like
I 100% agree.
It's on the different directions.
Yeah.
That they are trying to propose,
And
but
I think
it doesn't
feel
work.
bad for designers who work there. Because there's I'm pretty sure these, marketers or research guys, they're confusing the designers right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're creating these cacophony of shapes that if you look, okay, to our viewers, first of all, leave comments below on what we're talking about. Let us know what you think. But I challenge you to look at the three vehicles that we're talking about, the Civic, the Ridgeline, and the Odyssey, and see any brand connection between all three vehicles. I dare you. I dare you to tell me that each one of those feel like part of the same brand of
I can only say the only connections between all three of these vehicles are boring, and
and chaotic,
and boring and chaotic is for us is the brand of Honda right now.
It's like the siblings of like three different teenagers going through three different puberty. Basically, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And Joe, you mentioned like BMW not looking good earlier, but at the very least, you see a brand cohesiveness From the 1 series, the 2 series, the 3 series, the 4, the 5, the 6, the
They're
SUVs,
just ugly
the
similarly, basically.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
But again, you look at Audi, and there you cannot mistake in Audi. It doesn't matter about the down the road graphics or any of that stuff. You can tell from proportion and lines. It's an Audi from a mile away.
Yep.
A mile away.
Right.
You cannot do that with Honda nowadays.
No.
You just can't. But with the Odyssey that Thomas used to have, with the EK9 Civic that Joe was talking about, the 90s Civics, you could. You could very easily see it was the same brand.
Yeah.
And these are just
Terrible.
for lack of a better word, they're a mess. It's a mess.
And I have another honorable mention of the same platform.
Okay.
Acura Integra. I'm just gonna stop there, and then you guys can go watch it. Can go look at what Acura Integra.
Maybe we can get into.
Now.
Maybe we can get into Acura for next episode.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because I would back up Joe, and I will have my own honorable mention.
Oh, I have a lot of things
Acura
to say about
NSX.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So there's our
These
teaser.
guys,
Yeah.
These guys know I have a phrase for the Acura NSX, and it's this. It is literally the most forgettable supercar ever in history.
That's sad, man. That's
Like,
really
how sad is that as a brand, man?
That's really sad.
Okay. Let's end this on like a positive note. Okay, if you guys had advice for the Honda like higher ups, okay, what would you recommend to rectify this sort of brand cacophony? What are your thoughts?
Hey, their branding needs to be more strategic, and they needs to be more like the product design style. If they want to move forward for like a van, if they want to create a utility vehicle, if they wanted to create even like the truck or even like Honda Civic, they need to use branding strategy in the right way. They need to they need to do their research, basically.
I think to support what Joe was saying, I'll say one thing. I mean, all brands, they evolve, they all change. Like there's none. I mean, it's actually
of course
not good, especially brands like this where you're consistently selling cars not changing at all. But I think what they need to do is stop looking at other people, what other brands are doing. They need to really look into themselves. Like market is changing. I understand. Like EVs coming up. Like even like like other brands are they're changing their strategy. I understand, but you have to find the right direction. In order to find the right direction, you gotta remember your motto. Like your slogan of your company. Honda used to be very focused on innovation. Right now this is worse than past Toyota. Toyota was actually one of the boring companies.
Really good.
Before. Right now, like after the Prius, they had a huge leap, right? And then they're like trying to bring back like FJ to or Cruiser to LT Cruiser. That they came out recently was pretty cool.
That was nice.
Just Honda should really step back and look at themselves. Stop looking at other people and like, oh, they're doing that, I'm gonna do that. Oh, they're doing this, I'm gonna do that. Instead of that, really look at what you guys been doing. Like past, like during 90s and early 2000. Answer is there. Like I just feel like Honda has become like so
ordinary.
Ordinary, and just all they care about is money. That they're not even making money anymore.
Their market segment has definitely been shrinking. There's no question about it. I will add to what you both were saying, and really I think they need to revisit the concept of simplicity and minimalism. I think that purity of form, purity of shape was always their strongest suit. I do think that good design thinking was always one of their strong suits back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And they need to focus less on gimmicks and sort of fake buyer profiles and get back to the core of what made Honda excellent again.
Yeah.
That's really what I think will revitalize them as a brand. Like
I agree.
You don't
1000%.
have to have
Yep.
yeah, you don't have to have this complex surfacing in order to be competitive, right? You could save money on the tooling and then turn that around into embedded features within the vehicle. Again, not to belabor the point with the Hyundai like Santa Cruz, but they have a digital dashboard with cameras that you have the dials for the speedometer and tach. When you change lanes, the display changes to the side view camera when you try to make turns.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful integrated feature. Why isn't that in the Honda Odyssey? Why isn't that in the Ridge line as like a standard feature for the vehicle, right? That is what your consumer wants. They don't care about this convoluted styling.
Well
They
put it.
really
Well
don't.
put it. Yeah.
So really that's so for us here at Object Passion, yeah, we had a lot of jokes, we had a lot of critiques, but I do think when we do one of these brand analysis or any sort of critique of a company and their products, we want to leave you guys with a call to action on how to approach and address these issues from a designer's point of view.
Right.
So we hope you guys appreciated this perspective. Any last words, guys?
I just have one last words for anybody who's Honda enthusiast, especially, if you love the modern Honda. We're not like trying to, discourage you or, trying to go against you. These are our thoughts coming from designer's perspective. You can always argue if you want to, oppose us our thoughts. Is opinions, so it's fine. And also another thing is we have a lot of friends who are working in Honda too, and
yes, we do.
We appreciate their hard working. We're not
we
trying
do.
to bring their hard working down. Just that these are our, and also a lot of the public thinking at this point, maybe this could be a good reference for the designers to think about. And I'm pretty sure most of the time these results are not even from the designers. So, we are already aware
Very
of that.
true.
Yeah. So,
Yes. We don't blame you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I have one last thing to say, man.
Yeah.
Honda needs to go search for that power of dream that they talk about.
Yes.
That's a good rap right there, man.
Yeah.
That's
Leave it at
100%.
that.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah,
Power
man.
of dream.
Power of dream. Where is
Yeah.
that power of dream?
So let's hope that next year around this time when we talk about Honda again, there's some changes.
Yeah.
For a brand that we all, why we're so passionate about it is because we do respect and love Honda as a brand.
Right.
For all of the critique.
Right.
So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is going to be a new project for us, and we hope you enjoyed this little first insight into our brain as designers.
More to come.
Peace. Peace.
Peace.